So while Tristan is getting set up, it's one of the most interesting people I know.
You don't want to be recorded.
Oh, you don't?
No, I'm talking to you.
Oh, me. Oh, no. So Tristan is one of the most interesting people I know, right? So as we were planning DevOps days, speakers come up, we're like, oh, Tristan wants to say something. Yeah, just, because it's Tristan. So at the Redux of DevOps days in May, I said, does anybody want to see Tristan's talk again? And everyone raised their hand and said, yeah, because then we can ask him more questions. So I reach out to Tristan and I say, hey, will you do that talk? And like I said earlier, he said, yeah, but I have a better talk. I was like, cool, we do both talks. Right? So Tristan went to West Point. Was an Army aviator. And rode his bike from the Canadian border all the way to the Mexican border, because that's what you do. Right? So I found all this out while he was grinding me to dust while we were riding bikes out of Walnut Creek. I couldn't walk for days after that. See, he's laughing.
He hasn't invited me to ride with him.
Well, now I can walk again, and I got fat tires like you have. I was inspired. So anyway, so Tristan's mom, he may be, we need to get rid of that meme of the most interesting man and put Tristan in his place is what I think I'm trying to say here. So I completely oversold you. Ha.
Yeah, low expectations is what I like.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, cool. So thank you very much, Tristan, for coming back out and doing this again.
Okay. Thanks for the introduction, Boyd. That was up here, and I was just gonna go downhill. So hi, my name is Tristan Slaminski. Today I'm from Capability.io. That's my Twitter. And I just posted the link to these slides if you're interested. And today I'm going to talk to you about defending service level objectives, SLOs, with error budget burn rate alerting using Datadog. And we'll go into what that means. I take it as a given that you want service level objectives and want to alert on them. We can talk about Q&A, why you'd want to do that. And this introduction will provide sort of a whirlwind overview to provide some context, but the slides will be available and for reference, and then feel free to reach out with me questions and then also during Q&A. So first, I'm gonna do an overview, and it's gonna be essentially alerting on SLOs, chapter 5 of Site Reliability Workbook. Who has not read it? Okay, cool. So this will be interesting then. In essence, when designing alerts, these are the considerations that we're going to take into account as a criteria for what better is. Right? So we're going to be precise about what we mean by what is a better alert. And it's going to consist of these 4 parts. So precision, which is the proportion of events detected that were significant. So an alert triggered, and that means a real event happened. Okay? And recall is the proportion of significant events detected, which is a real event occurred and it triggered an alert. Okay. Then we're going to talk about detection time, how long it takes to send the notification in various conditions, and reset time, how long the alerts fire after an issue is actually resolved. So based on these 4 criteria, we're going to go over what the trade-offs are and what is better. We will progress through 6 increasingly complicated methodologies, these ones, and the answer will be number 6. So just up front. For our running example, we will assume that we have a service level objective, and that is 99.9% of requests succeed over 30 days. So it's an availability service level objectives where the availability is counted in successful requests. So this service level objective implicitly defines an error budget of 1 minus the 99.9%, which is 0.1%. And so 0.1% requests can fail over 30 days. Like they implicitly are defined. If you say SLO, you automatically have an error budget. So that's what an error budget is, 1 minus the SLO. So for the first method, the target error rate is greater than some SLO threshold. We're gonna choose a smaller time window, for example, 10 minutes, and alert if the error rate at any time during that window exceeds the SLO threshold. So it's like the first thing you can think of, right? It's like, All right, if over the last 10 minutes, if it's greater than 0.001 is the percentage of errors, then we're going to alert. So here is the list of pros and cons for reference but the highlight that I'm gonna point out is if you set up your alerts this way, you could receive up to 144 alerts per day, every day, not act upon any alerts and still meet your service level objective. So it's a pretty terrible way of alerting. And that is because you can alert and it can recover. You can alert and recover. And that small amount of time, the threshold that you set, over the 30 days is not gonna add up to your 0.1% of errors. And so you're constantly reacting to something that you wouldn't have to. So that's a major con from this. So, okay, so if that's not the way, let's try to improve our alerts. So building on the first method, we can increase the alert window. So instead of looking at 10 minutes, we're gonna increase our window size. And so we're gonna say we're going to watch our threshold over previous 36 hours instead of 10 minutes, right? Like, let's not make it so sensitive. And so to keep the rate of alerts manageable, you decide to only be notified when an event consumes 5% of the 30-day error budget. So a 36-hour window is 5% of 30 days. All right, so what you're saying is, okay, I've blew away through 5% of what I'm allowed to fail, and then alert me. Sounds good, right? Well, while we improve our precision, that is, when it actually triggers, we are closer to a real event. The major con of this is that it has a very poor reset time. So in case of you get 100% outage, the alert will fire shortly after 2 minutes, and then it's just gonna be triggered for the next 36 hours. You might recall, you can go full out for 3 minutes and then come back up 100%, and your alert will just be going off for 36 hours. It will never reset. So that is so what we have is the reset time is kind of terrible in this type of alert. So if we have this simple threshold alerts, the longer your time window is you wait, the longer your reset time is going to be, unless you manually reset it, of course. So this is a visualization. Oh, that's interesting. This figure shows that all you're missing is grid line, but your mind can fill in the missing piece. This figure shows that while the error rate, this is the example I gave, the error rate spikes up to 100% and then it goes back down, but the green one is the detected by the error rate for the 36 hours, and it's just gonna stay up and reset after 36 hours later. Yes?
Is your error budget the area under the curve?
Error budget, no. No, error budget is, so let's see, what's easy math? Don't make it hard on myself. So yeah, so like like I say, I receive 1,000 requests in 30 days. So my error budget would be 10 requests can fail. So it's not the error under the curve. I actually don't know what the error under the curve is. I haven't thought about it from this framing. So let's continue to improve on our reset rate, right? So most monitoring systems will allow you to add a duration parameter to the alert criteria it serves so that the alert won't fire unless the value remains above the threshold for some time. So, so you're still waiting for the error alert to cross over a threshold and then you just want it to stay there for 1 minute, right? It's different than spreading a window, right? We're back to the window of 1 minute, so we narrowed it back down to get a quick alert for the 1 minute. You remember those 144 things fired? But the problem there was if it triggers, it goes back down. If it triggers, it goes back down. So what we're gonna say is like for 1 hour, that little alert is triggered. But we're always evaluating just 1 minute window. And so that's helpful because we can get quicker, get higher precision, requiring sustained error rates, so we don't get triggered on those 144 spikes like we did before. It just has to stay there, and our alert system has now a separate window for the alert has to be triggered for 1 hour, not the window for the actual measurement. But this method continues to have some significant cons, which is poor recall and poor detection time. So now, even though our alert window is 1 minute, our detection time is now 1 hour, because that's what the threshold we set. It's like the long, you know, our 1 minute alert has to be on for 1 hour. So we're sacrificing 1 hour of alerting here. And because the duration does not scale with the severity of the incident, 100% outage will alert after 1 hour. And same thing as a 0.2% outage, we're also alert for after 1 hour. So like the severity doesn't change. So you can be 100% out, and your one minute window will trigger, and then you have to wait an hour because it's triggered, and you get an alert. Or you just go just above the threshold, and you still have to wait an hour, and then you get an alert. So that's sort of less desirable. We can do better. And then the problem with the 100% outage, it would consume 140% of the 30-day budget in that hour. So, so we want to know. So the problem with this type of alert is that if we have that 1 hour window for a 99.9% error SLO, after 1 hour, we could have gone through all of our error budget. And so we know about the alert too late. So this is the other, so this figure shows the average error rate over a 5-minute window of a service with a 10-minute duration before the alert fires. Right, so what the problem with that is, we can get a series of 100%, this is a failure mode of the alert that I just showed you, right? So if you have a series of 100% error spikes lasting for 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, it will never trigger that alert. That's the other problem with it. So despite consuming 35% of the error budget, your alert doesn't trigger. Because you just, once again, the longer you get your window, you give those opportunities for full resets, right? And as soon as you get a full reset, your 1 hour window, you know, your alert hasn't been triggered for 1 hour, so it can just do these little bumps of errors, errors, recovery, and that's sort of a pattern that is difficult to alert on. So this is where we start getting into derivatives and burn rates to sort of address those types of failure patterns. So to improve upon the previous solution, what we want to create is an alert with good detection time and high precision. So to this end, you can introduce a burn rate to reduce the size of the window while keeping the alert budget spent constant. So because what we're after is, we want a shorter time window, right? We said we can have a longer time window and then we'll get alerted about, it'll be a real event. But what we want to do is get a shorter time window so we get alerted sooner, especially for a 100% outage. We don't want to wait an hour where we already wasted our errors. We want to be alerted faster for more significant things and less fast for less significant things. So the burn rate is how fast, relative to the service level objective, the service is consuming the error budget. So 5% of a 30-day error budget spend over 1 hour requires a burn rate of 36. What? Who followed that math? Few people? Okay, cool. So this figure shows the relationship between burn rates and error budgets to sort of clarify it. So with an SLO of 99.9% requests succeeds over a time window of 30 days. So if we get a constant 0.1% error rate, which is like our error rate of our error budget, then we're gonna basically, it's the blue line, it's gonna run out at 30 days. So at 30 days, we're gonna burn exactly 0.1% of the total. So if we're detecting 0.1% of errors right now, and we're gonna keep that up for 30 days, we're gonna run out of 0.1% of error budget over the 30 days. That's burn rate 1. Burn rate 2 means that 30 days worth of error budget will be consumed in 15 days. Right? Burn rate of 10 means that 30 days worth of error budget will be consumed in 3 days. That's how I prefer to think about it. It's just like, it's in essence, is how many error budget periods you're gonna consume in your error budget period. Right? So 2 means two worth of 30 days in 30 days, which flipped that around is 15 days, right? It'll get clearer when I put it in a formula, I promise. So there is a major con to this burn rate approach, however, and that is its low recall. So for our alert on burn rate of 36, right? So we have So we're saying we're improving an alert, and we're saying error rate over the previous 1 hour is greater than 36, 36 burn rate of our error budget. So the problem with recall is that for our alert burn rate of 36, a burn rate of 35 will never alert. Right, so we're saying 36, that's what we want to get alerted on. Okay, cool. 35 will never alert. That's going to blow through your 30-day error budget in 20 and a half hours. Right, so that's kind of the problem with setting a single alert burn rate. So how do we solve that? Well, this is how we advance to multiple burn rates. So your alerting logic can use multiple burn rates and time windows and fire alerts when burn rates surpass a specified threshold. So this option retains the benefits of alerting on burn rates and ensures that you don't overlook lower but still significant error rates. Because remember, our goal here for the error budget thing is to make sure that we don't use up all of our error budget in 30 days. So we want to defend against all possible ways that error budget could be spent, whether that's one significant event that's burning it quickly, or there's a slow burn taking a long time because we have some kind of degradation performance, but still gonna get us in the end. So it's also a good idea to set up ticket notifications for incidents that typically go unnoticed, but can exhaust your error budget if left unchecked. So for example, like a 10% budget consumption in 3 days. It's like, you don't need to be woken up for that. You can just come in like on Monday and be like, okay, oh, hey, you should probably look at this because we're slowly having increased errors, but we're still within our error budget. So here's an example, right? So the multiple burn rates. So in this case, we have 14.4 burn rate over 1 hour, and that will detect, so you want shorter time windows for faster burn rates, or 6 hours burn rate of 6, or over previous 3 days, we get our error budget. This is a table that recommended time windows for burn rates for percentage of SLO budget consumed. And the thing about these, so now the question arises in the complex, as we get more accurate and try to account for more type of failure scenarios, the problem is we're getting more parameters to specify, and these become arbitrary. So this is Google's, SRE workbook's recommendation of like where you can start, and then then it's up to you to tune. Do you want just the 3 burn rates, or do you want more level of granularity there? Do you want an hour time window, 6 hour, 3 days, or not? Or do you want different ones? And what's your threshold for getting a page notification versus a ticket notification? So this is another neat kind of graph. You can't see the grid, but you see the axis labels. Multiple burn rates allow you to adjust the alert to give the appropriate priority based on how quickly you have to respond. So we've talked about this. If an issue will exhaust their budget within hours or a few days, you probably want to page somebody. Otherwise, you want to send somebody a ticket. And so this is sort of the graph of how long it takes to detect something versus and what type of error rate. So we want 100% error rate with those multiple burn. This is graph. So this graph is for these burn rates, specific burn rates, right? It's these 3 alerts. So that's what the 3-step function is you see there. You see the green one, then the blue one, and then step function, and the last one, right? So the last one is the 14.4. That the one above 1% is going to be your 6 hours, and then the 3 days will be the green one, the ticket. And this is how, if you work out the math, this is what you get. So, it can take you 24 hours to detect your slow burn, your 10% SLO consumption, but that's fine because it's just doing a slow burn. And then 100% outage will take you about a minute. So that's kind of nice and beneficial property of these. And we're almost to the most accurate alerting method. The major con, again, of multiple burn rate alerts is that the 3-day alert will still take like 3 days to reset. Right, so that sucks. So like, okay, yeah, that's great. So we've improved some of the things, but still have one problem. So the answer is, let's make it more complicated. And this is the final answer. This is where multi-window, multi-burn rate alert comes in. You already know what multi-burn rate alert is. What multi-window does is, for the rate that you picked, now you have 2 time windows instead of 1. And the idea here is so the first line is the same as the previous alert. So 1 hour greater than 14.4 of our error budget, 6 hours greater than 6, 3 days greater than our error budget. The second window is basically short time window at the end of that. So the idea here is what we're improving is stuff has been going bad for an hour, and in the last 5 minutes it's still been bad, right? So same thing for 3 days. So we have 3 days stuff is going bad, and on the last 6 hours has been just as bad as over the last 3 days. So now we're gonna alert. So this is sort of like, so we want the long condition and it's still going bad. So, but if your 3-day alert triggers, but in the last 5 hours you started to recover, then your last 6 hours will be like, no, I think we're good now. Right, so that's sort of like another way to make it more accurate. And a good guideline that the book lists is to pick the short window to be 1/12 the duration of the long window. Why? Because it's a parameter and you have to pick one. So sure, I'll start there. And then this graph shows both alerting thresholds. So this is like a long window and short window, right? So the red one, the longer one, is the 60 minutes, and then the green one is the 5-minute window, and then the blue is the actual error rates. And so the nice properties of this is that after experiencing, so blue after it jumps up to 15%. So after experiencing 15% errors for 10 minutes, the short window average goes over the alerting threshold immediately. And then the long window average goes after the threshold for 5 minutes, right? And then at which point, that's when the alert actually starts to fire. And then when the short window average drops below the threshold after the minutes stop, and the alert stops firing and the alert resets. So this is our reset time hack, in essence. That it's like, it's not bad anymore, don't worry about it, we're good. So this is an extension of the previous table. All the numbers are the same, except now we've added the short window. So 1 hour, 14.4, which corresponds to 2% of the error budget. But short window is 5 minutes. And so this is again the 1/12 heuristic. So we arrived at capturing most of the pros. We have a flexible alerting framework that you can specify whatever you want. Good precision, good recall, because you had the 3-day window, so you can detect like slow burn things. You specify multiple burn rates to detect different types of fast events or slow events. And there's still the con of now this becomes a thing. Like, it is much easier for me to teach people how to specify service level objective than it is to teach them this alerting. Like this is a hell of a thing to take on, and it took me, I think, it straight up took 3 days of staring and working formulas and understanding of how this works in order to get a working knowledge. Yes, sir.
Are you implementing this as code? You can.
No.
No? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to learn this myself.
Yes, these will all look very familiar, and the graphics would look uncanny. I'm not done, by the way.
Of those 3 windows that you set, wouldn't the 2 most valuable ones be the short windows and the long ones? So if you wanted to kind of take out maybe the middle one, that really is highlighted.
Oh, I think I've skipped one.
Does that make sense?
The idea being, yeah, I think I've missed one part, which is the other heuristic that we use here. If the fast one fires, then we don't fire the slow ones, right? So, but the thing is, so you're saying the most valuable ones.
Yeah, the most valuable ones.
So you know,
beginning and the end.
So you know that all your errors that you're gonna cause are gonna be full outages and the slow ones, and there's gonna be nothing in between.
Typically,
If that's what you believe, then pick 2.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say is like, it really is highly. But what I found when we implemented SLOs at our company is it's the the first and the last.
But nothing, the middle one never happened.
The middle one kind of starts showing up on the long-term one.
Okay,
A
cool,
lot
cool,
more so, and like the big ones will contribute to the middle one. That's
cool.
what we've seen, like for our product.
So,
That's
to,
highly
yeah,
dependent.
so to adapt yours, like, that's great because then we can reduce the number of parameters.
That's what I'm saying.
The
Like, you
recommendation
may not always need
Yeah.
3.
So the recommendation is then start 2, get the fast and the slow one. Yeah, for sure. So now, who here uses Datadog? Maybe so. Okay, cool. So it'll be useful for some of you. So let's now go over how to set up multi-window, multi-burn rate alerts in Datadog, which is not straightforward because Datadog has some limitations. It can't do this, hey, this last 5 minutes, it actually can't do that. We don't get a rolling windows with continuous evaluation because in the alerts, we're saying like, I want over the last hour and the last 5 minutes. What we mean is we want a sliding like last hour and sliding last 5 minutes. Datadog cannot do that.
I think they have SLOs as a like beta feature.
They have a widget that they called SLOs. Yes, I agree. I love this because nobody wanted to talk about Datadog, so I'm ready for this. But yeah, they still don't do the sliding window piece, so we can't specify like this. But so what we end up with is like 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, 5 minute blocks, which extends your detection time to twice your thing, right? But that's better than not being able to do it at all. And initially, when I was doing this, I was like, it's impossible. And then I was like, okay, if I had to do it, how would I do it? So that's a limitation, but we can still do it in Datadog. So the book uses Prometheus, which does not have this limitation. So it's a Datadog specific thing. But if whatever alerting system you're using, if it doesn't have sliding windows, then this will also work for you. Datadog doesn't have histograms, and so who wants to take that one? No? Okay. So this makes working with, in particular, there's 2 types of SLOs that I'm always seeing, which are availability and latency. Availability is good request, bad request. Latency would be 95% of requests are below whatever, right? And because Datadog doesn't have histograms, and by histogram I mean histogram. I'll use Prometheus, the terminology, which is what I like. They distinguish between histograms and summaries. Histograms is when the data at the end, you have which bucket and what the count of stuff in the bucket was, right? So you can say like 0 to 100 milliseconds bucket had 200 requests, 100 to 200 had 300 requests. So you have this bucket labeling and counts. That's a histogram. A summary is you saying, the P95 was 237 milliseconds, right? The fun thing about summaries, and so in Datadog for funsies calls summaries histograms. And the problem with that is for these type of latency SLOs and error budget, it really helps if you have a latency SLO of 95% of requests below 300 milliseconds or something. Then you will not be able to label each request good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, because that allows you to count an error budget. If all you have like is a P95 was 273, that doesn't tell you how many requests are above that but still met your SLO threshold. You can't count good requests out of that, and you can't backwards engineer your way out of it. So that is still, you can still track an SLO that way, but you can't track an error budget. And all the alerting and everything we talked about was error budget alerting for all the reasons we walked through 1 through 6 down. And so that's a limitation. We'll talk about how to get around the limitation, but it requires software development. And then, nevertheless, we can set up Datadog monitors that provide us multi-window, multi-burn rate alerts per chapter 5 of SRE workbook. This is kind of Datadog, actually the old one. I didn't update my slides since they updated the UI, like since DevOps days. But so the most arcane portion of specifying the Datadog monitor will be setting up the monitor query. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So, your monitor query is going to go into define the metric. And so this is the formula we're going to use. Bad count is the count of bad requests in a rollup period. So in our example, we'll say these are failed requests. Allowed error rate is 1 minus the SLO. So our example is 99.9%. So this will be 0.001. Total count is the count of good and bad requests in a rollup period, like the total. In our example, we'll say these are total requests. And then SLO period is the period for which our SLO is defined. So we said 30 days. And then detection period is the parameter that will determine what error budget burn rate this alert will detect. So this is how I prefer to talk about burn rates. Like burn rate of 14.4 doesn't mean anything to me. But if I take my SLO period and I divide it by how fast I want to know about it, I'll come up with 14.4, and that's gonna, so 30 days, and I want to know within 3 days, then my burn rate is 10. Because 30 divided by 10, sorry, 30 divided by 3 is 10. So I prefer to think about it this way. So for example, if detection period is 48 hours, then this alert will trigger when the burn rate would exhaust all of our error budget within 48 hours. If detection period is 3 days, then this alert will trigger when the burn rate will exhaust all of our error budget within 3 days. If detection period is 1 hour, then this alert would trigger when the burn rate would exhaust all of our error budget in 1 hour. So the SRE workbook does have a different formulation. So now you have two. Right? I found that one too cryptic for my brain, so I like use this one, but now you have two choices instead of just that one. They're equivalent. So let's now turn this formula into specifically a Datadog query. So for example service, the metric, the counting bad requests is going to be service.request.count, and failed requests are going to be tagged with error true. And we will take the sum of the rollup of 3,600 seconds, and the 36, so roll up sum 3,600, and that is basically our 1 hour bucket. And so we are measuring the bad count in. So the bad counts over the 1 hour. And remember in Datadog, we're constrained to have 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. So you're gonna get these hourly data points. Next, the allowed error rate is dictated by our SLO. So it's 0.001. And then we sum up the total count. So it is the sum of the same metric rolled up over the same period, which is 3,600 seconds, which is 1 hour, 1 hour bucket. But this time we're going to count all requests, so they don't have the selector for error true tag. We then enter our SLO period, which is 30 days. And lastly, we enter our desired detection period, 48 hours, and in days it's 2 days. And so now we have an alert that will tally bad and total requests over 1 hour bucket. And we'll then see if that error ratio is greater than 15 over that hour. And if that is the case, then what that means is that our rate of errors over the last hour indicates we will run out of error budget in 48 hours. And so saying this kind of makes it more actionable. So if I get woken up to that, it's like within 48 hours, stuff is going to be bad. And it's always going to be sooner than that, right? Because you waited your detection period. But also tells me how fast it's going. Next, we're going to set up an alert that takes the 5-minute window. So this will be more straightforward. The same thing. Note the rollup is over now 300. Everything is the same, except we're now rolling up over those 5-minute windows. And now we have within 48 hours in a 5-minute window. And so lastly, we set up our, so in Datadog has a concept of composite monitor, only trigger when these two trigger. And so we're going to set up our composite monitor, and they both have to be ended together. So that both the 1 hour window indicates we are going to run out of error budget in 48 hours. And the last 5-minute window indicates that the error rate in the last 5 minutes is still as bad as over the last hour. And I keep on saying the long thing because it's really easy to lose track of what these things mean, right? So it's like, especially with burn rates, at least for me. Yeah, so that's all I got for now. The slade's available on my Twitter, and let's talk more if you have questions.
More questions for Tristan? No?
All right.
Probably a loaded question, but can you describe your process? how you iterate to identify SLOs, and how do you do the the blameless postmortem? You have a is that ad hoc or do you have like a formalized?
Sure. The process that I'm driving adoption with is it revolves around an artifact of service level objectives and error budget policy. So it's a social document. None of this means if nobody does anything about these things, right? And so I'm in a SRE role, and typically we'll approach a product team, and I'm usually embedded with the product team. I'll take a first swag at like I'll understand what kind of service level vectors we care about. I'll take the first swag at what I think it should be, and then I'll present it to, and then I'll generate this artifact, which is the policy, and it's pretty kind of standard. I don't like specifying so like useful details that I found. I don't like specifying SLOs as sentences. I like to break it down into a table and just says period, percent, the thing, which is like request succeed, and then optional within something. And the reason for that is people most likely forget period when you specify an SLO. Like you say, like 99% of requests succeed in 30 days, right? Like, or in a week or in an hour. And that makes a huge difference. And so when you present that information as a table, every human can make the sentence in their head. But no information is forgotten. So I just found that to be easier to communicate. And then the error budget policy, right? So the alerts are just a tiny portion of the error budget policy. And what I like to advocate for, and this is not the only view, my view is there's a threshold we're gonna cross when you run out of error budget. So error budget is a bucket of errors that you can have, right? And developers can spend it as much as they want. And I've seen people advocate that, like, okay, if a bunch of errors happen, you have to have a learning review and decide anything else. I'm more of the mind of, as long as the error budget is not exhausted, I don't care, don't talk to me, don't have a learning review, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, doesn't matter. The only threshold we cross that I advocate for is we declare an event, incident, whatever, is when your error budget goes to 0. And when that happens, I drive for agreement on only one specific thing. And that is, you can still do whatever you want, but your release can only be like a maintenance reliability release. It can't be a feature release. So alternative, people try to dictate of like, you need to stop feature work, you need to do other things, etc. I'm more of the, I'm not in your business. Our contract is just you do the reliability release and you have to wait until your error budget recovers. So it is possible that if you have like an error budget for like, your period is like over 2 or 4 weeks, they blow their error budget, they don't do anything for a while and it recovers because like say releases are bad. And then they blow it again and blow it again, like without improving reliability. Like that's fine. But like if you want to be slow of every 4 weeks, okay. That's within the parameters, right? So that's sort of the process. So I generate this artifact. It's pretty standard now. The only tweaks are usually what the percentage is and what the metric is. And then I just say like, do you agree to this? And then we talk. And then I explain you can't have 100%. And that happens every time. And then we get kind of like a signature, like you add in a wiki of people like here are the humans who agreed to this for future reference. I found that useful instead of saying a team, because the team can churn and then like none of us know about this. It's like, okay, no, here are the people actually that agreed to it, and then it's a policy, and then you see if it works or not when the alert triggers and whether they react to it or not, and then when you blow through your error budget, whether they react to it or not, and then it's just social cycle at that point. But I found that I want to keep the interface as clean as possible. So I don't want to learn about how the teams work, internals, how many developers are working on features versus reliability, etc. So I like to have that cutoff of you run out of error budget, reliability releases. You have to wait till the thing recovers. That's it. That's kind of, hopefully that, okay.
Other questions for Tristan?
It sounds like you're a believer in the idea that if teams aren't spending their error budget, they're not trying hard enough.
I mean, I don't know. If they're not spending their error budget, like I don't care what they're doing.
Fair enough. Other questions for Tristan?
Okay, thank you.
I had my back turned when Tristan asked how many of y'all have read the book or haven't read the book. How many? So would y'all raise your hand again? Now leave your hand up if you're now going to read the book. Yeah, I'm going to read the book.
Well, there's two books. There's Serializability Experience and Serializability Work. Go ahead.
Do you need to read the book before you read the workbook first, Tom?
I wouldn't say so.
No? Okay. Yeah. So next month, she happens to be here, Deb Hawkins is going to talk about IAM stuff. Thank you very much for volunteering. So one more quick thing. If you were a DevOps Days volunteer, please stand up. Outstanding. Those people contributed to your community. If you're a DevOps Days organizer, please stand up. No, stay standing if you're volunteer, please. Okay? If you spoke at DevOps Days, please stand up. If you attended DevOps Days, please stand up. If you have spoke at this meetup or another meetup around town, please stand up. All right, now, we're still not a community yet. If you've attended a meetup, please stand up. It doesn't work unless people come to hear what's being said. Thank you for your trust in giving a Monday night away to come learn about error budgets, SLOs, and data drop, about somebody's job search that might help you on a job search at some point in your life. Next month, Deborah will be talking about IAM. We've got other interesting things planned coming up. Your office is next. If you're in, how many people are